In today's equity index futures markets, let's take a look at the NASDAQ futures today, as the NASDAQ futures realized a significant reversal today. We did see the NASDAQ futures up quite a bit, all-time highs earlier in the session. 11,057.5 was the high, and then some selling pressure throughout the afternoon, picking up momentum as we move towards the close, and the NASDAQ futures actually closing down a little over 2% on the day, right around the 10,604 level. And when you look at some of the driving factors today, I think first we had some continuation of the positive momentum late last week that helped push the markets higher and the futures markets higher. And certainly the news coming over the weekend into today, there was news that the vaccine, concerning the virus situation, was trending in a positive direction, that there might be something here coming a little bit sooner than maybe the market had anticipated. At least the psychology in the market was viewing some of the news surrounding a potential vaccine as a positive, and I think that helped boost most of the major equity index futures markets higher initially. Then we got into the middle of the day and some other news items started to hit the market. First, I think the Fed officials started to speak. We did get some chatter today about the possibility of the Fed reining in some of the stimulus if things continue to trend as they are. That was, I think, the first thing. And then we had issues with Congress as far as their stimulus measures. It appears that they're coming into a stalemate there. So that's a potential issue moving forward. And the third thing, I think, was, and the final thing was the fact that now we are seeing some of these big states starting to actually roll back their reopening measures, California being the first one to take steps backwards. And I think that was just too much for the equity markets to manage, and we did see the futures market selling off in reaction to those news items. When you look at some of the trends in place, the NASDAQ futures, for today at least, were the worst performer. Certainly an outlier. We'll have to see if that has any meaning to it moving forward. But NASDAQ futures were the worst performer of the major index futures markets, down about 2.15%. We saw the Russell down about 1.4% on the day. The S&P futures down about 90 basis points, or just under 1%. And the Dow futures actually flat on the day. So again, there's that rotation, I think, that we did see much more pronounced this afternoon, with the tech sector coming under some selling pressure. Also, I want to point out, S&P 500 futures actually took out the June highs and came within a hair of taking out the beginning of the year highs. So we did see those S&P futures pushing up basically to unchanged on the year before they lost ground this afternoon, giving up some ground, but not as much as the NASDAQ futures. As I mentioned, the NASDAQ futures down a little over 2% on the day.